that was actually, that one word is the one thing that I brought up with every single interview I had with my executive leadership team, because I wanted to see if I said grace, because people look at it just from a religious standpoint. There's other sides to the word grace, right? And if I had anybody I was interviewing kind of like close up when I said that, I wasn't hiring them.
Yeah.
Because we have to give each other grace. We have to give each other empathy. And when you give people grace in those things that we've just talked about, it just leads to success. It leads to a culture that people truly believe in what you're saying, and that they're going to work hard for you because of it.
Welcome back to Tell Me Why, a podcast about and for the healthcare workforce. I'm Emily O'Sullivan, and with my co-host Jen Wright, we are thrilled today to welcome a truly transformative leader. Our guest is Joshua Trout. He's a seasoned healthcare CEO, currently with Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital of Greenville, and he has an incredible track record of driving positive change from the executive suite. He's also the author of the book Transformative Leadership, which we are really excited to talk to him about today. And we've invited Joshua to join us to discuss the pivotal role of transformative leadership and how decisions at the highest executive levels directly shape the day-to-day workforce experience, impacting everything from recruitment to professional fulfillment and retention. So Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Very good. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be on the show with you guys and excited to have a great conversation.
We're excited to have you.
Well, Josh, before we dive into this world of executive decision making, we always like to start at the beginning and ask our guests to tell us a little bit about their why. Yeah. So what are the personal, professional paths you've taken that have drawn you to the work of healthcare leadership? And maybe specifically as a CEO, how do you feel your why connects to that ultimate responsibility you have to the front line?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, yeah, I didn't have the traditional path to the seat that I sit in today. I talk about a lot of this in my book. I grew up with learning disabilities, with a lot of sickness, and things that set me behind from a very, very early age. And the struggle was real, right? So I was very delayed. I didn't really find myself, find who I am, not only find how to learn, but also to identify who I am and what I was put on earth to do until a very, late age. So almost when I was 20, about 28, 29 is when I really got my feet steady underneath me to start making an impact. Because of that, of the struggles and things that I went through, instead of using those as an excuse and having a pity party, I decided to use that as my strength. And that's really, I would say, the core reason behind my why. I felt unseen most of my life. I felt as though everything was stacked up against me. I had many people in my life telling me that I can't and that I won't, and that I won't live up to being anything. At my age today, it still sits on my shoulder, right? It's something that's whispering in my ear at all times. And my biggest thing is I know what I felt like. I know what, how discouraged I was behind that. I struggle with suicidal ideations, just the typical thing that what's crazy is most people go through, right? We all have the same story, just looks a little bit different. So I said to myself, once I got a good understanding who I am and why I feel I was put on this earth to do, I use that as a strength, and I use that as my why, to go out there and make an instant impact on people's lives, to be there to support them, to see them as a human, not as a number, not as an employee, to understand they have a story just like mine. Try to pull that story out of them and let them know what my story is through vulnerability, to be able to connect. And when we're able to do that, that's when you really grow a strong relationship and you have positive outcomes in whatever you're doing. So that's really my why. I want to make an impact on people's lives and let them feel seen, and give them the platform to be them. Not me telling them how to do things, but letting them be themselves.
So that sounds to me like you found that understanding of yourself, and you kind of gained that sense of well-being, right?
Correct.
Mental, emotional, and physical well-being, that holistic feeling of being able to be your best, and then now being able to translate that into how do I bring the best out in other people.
Correct.
So what does that look like for you in your leadership when you're focusing on the well-being of your workforce as a core business strategy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think that, again, you've heard back in the days, right, in old style business, hey, you know what? We need you to come to work. We need you to be the best that you can be. We need you to live our core values. We need you to smile and make us look great as an organization. There's nothing wrong with that. But what the old way of leadership was is, hey, but you know what? I know that you got a lot of stuff personally that's going on in your life. I need you to leave that crap at the front door. Come in here, do all the rainbow and sunshine things that I'm asking you to do. And then when you're done making us look good, go and pick your crap up on the way out, right? And what I've learned is that makes your employees not feel valued. That makes your employees not feel seen. And that is the difference. So I meet with every single employee that comes to this hospital on day one of orientation. I'm the first person they hear. I talk about core values and how important they are to us, not only from an organization standpoint, but also personally. What's your personal core values, and are they aligning with the company that you're coming to work for? But I also sit there and identify that, listen, guys, the old style business, the old style way of how organizations ran, and some of the places you're coming from is not how we do things here locally. I need you to know that I know that we are human. We all have a story. We all have troubles outside this building. I want this place to be a place of safety, that I'm not asking you to leave your crap at the front door. I am asking you to do the rainbow and sunshine things here because we need to be successful, and it's about providing the best care to our patients, and so that they can have the best outcomes to get back to their normal life. But what I'm saying is, when you're coming into work and I'm asking you to do all these things and put a smile on your face and treat our patients with nothing but respect, and sometimes the patients and families are kind of giving you some stuff back that's not rightfully deserved, but they're also going through a lot of things in their own personal lives, I want you to take a time out. I want you to come to my office. I'll sit with you. I'll cry with you. I'll laugh with you. You can scream. You can even have a safe space. If you got to cuss up a storm, hey, you know what? Go for it. I'm not going to hold anything against you. Am I going to fix your problem? I'm not. But are you going to know that I really care about you, and that I know that there's problems outside of this workplace? Yes. And what I've seen is that employees can take a deep breath after that. They leave my office and they go kick butt, right? They go do the things that I'm asking them to do. So that's where I really have embedded my story, my understanding that, there's so many different things that a human goes through. Instead of ignoring it, let's actually bring it to the forefront, right? Let's talk about those things. Let them feel seen. Let them feel heard. Again, you're not fixing their problem, but when you do that and you embed that in your culture, people trust you, they believe in you, they want to work for you, and they're going to go out and do a phenomenal job, right? And that's really where I have used my experiences to embed that here in the workforce and have that steady work-life balance.
I love that you're modeling authenticity so people feel safe to bring their authentic self to work. That is an incredible culture you are establishing.
You're not going to succeed, right? If you're just faking all that you do, you're not going to have a strong culture. You're not going to have success, right? And what's so sad, guys, is that this is when I talk to these employees, they're just in shock that the CEO is sitting in front of them. And to me, that says that we have a broken system.
Yeah.
We have a broken view of how leaders should lead. So again, this is where I feel like I'm blessed to share my story and hopefully start a new trend in business.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, like, I bet there's a lot of people listening to this that are thinking, man, I wish I had a leader like that. And thank you for like sharing your backstory. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has really impacted, the type of leader you are and made you a much more empathetic, understanding leader that's really worth following. So thank you for sharing that. And I didn't
100%. Yeah.
plan to, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, what's cool about that model too is I'm human, right?
Yeah.
CEOs, we're on an island. I'm there pouring into people all the time, but there's no one really able to pour into me because I'm at the top, right? But when you build that relationship and that you lead through vulnerability, and then you get your team to buy in, and they know that you're not just saying words, you're actually living what you're saying. On my bad days, there's nothing that makes me more happy than an employee that I have very few interactions with because they're on the floor. They're like, "Hey, Josh, you all right? You don't look like yourself." And in a safe way, I can open up to them and be like, "Hey, you know what? I'm having a bad day too. I got a lot of personal things going on," and they talk to me, make me feel better as well. So it goes both ways, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. What made you want to write a book on transformative leadership? And what would you say transformative leadership means to you?
Yeah. So I am, I am a man of faith, and it is something that I let drive at the forefront in everything that I do. And I know not everybody's like that, and that's okay, but that's my story, right? And the rough life that I went through, the things that I went through, the suicidal ideations that I had growing up because of being bullied and being behind and learning disabilities and health issues. I could have went a different path, right? I could have went a different path. And I can't say that I did that. There's someone else or something else that saved me through all that and opened up opportunities for me to utilize my strengths. And what I realized is that it's not all about your strengths. It's about your weaknesses as well, right? Your weaknesses, your failures are really more what makes you who you are as a human being than your successes. So what I did is I decided to utilize that as a strength, like I've already said, to lead. And I've had success because of that. So because I've had to learn on my own and I've had to go through the war to get where I'm at today, I don't want other people to do that. I think there's value behind that. I think that if things are so perfect, you don't learn, right? So I do think there's value of the struggle. But if I'm able to utilize my story to help lessen that struggle for others and let them feel heard and let them know that it's okay and that their story is probably aligned with mine, they might not have a family member. They might not have people in their life to motivate them and say that, yes, you can. I want to be that person. I want to be able to say, hey, look at my freaking mess, right? I was a mess. I should not be in this seat right now. But to me, because of the grace of God and because of hard work, I'm here. So I have a duty to share that. And I felt like what better way to get that out there than writing a book and telling my story so people connect with that. I feel like I have an obligation to do so. And transformative leadership, where that really came from is taking your story, taking the negative, taking the struggles, taking the things that you learn along your path, and utilizing that as your strength and transforming how you are as a person, number one, but how you lead others. That's what's so important. I feel like there's so many people that won't chase the money, chase the lifestyle, chase the name, right? There's so many people, there's so many leaders, so many CEOs. I am CEO. You will listen to me, right? They have a power struggle. And they fell, right? There's so many people that also go out there and read books. And it's crazy because I wrote a book and I want people to read it to better themselves. But I also warn people about reading books because while there's so many good things about that, you try to take things you learn in a book and make them you, and it's not you, right? It's really, you're supposed to find out who you are first and then take what you learn from books and build upon that, right? So what I really talk about in the book is my story, how you get through that story, but how do you identify your core values? If you don't know who you are at the core, you're never going to succeed in life, right? Because you're always going to be walking around almost like a fraud, right? A lot of people struggle. I was one of them with imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
right? So first of all, identifying your why, identifying who you are through your core values. But then when you go and you try to find that next career, do your core values align with the core values in which the company you're going to work for? If they don't jive, it's not going to work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So that's really the why behind writing the book and the why behind transformative leadership. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that answer.
Thank you.
And our listeners are familiar with this. I don't know if you are, but we use the U.S. Surgeon General's 5 Essentials for Workplace Mental Health and Wellbeing as kind of our framework around our Work Harmony U initiative. And 2 of those essential elements are mattering at work and work-life harmony, which you've already really spoken to a lot, particularly mattering at work with, treating people as individuals and helping people reach their full potential and be their best selves and bring their best self to work. So in terms of those 2 areas, from the CEO perspective, these aren't just, HR concepts. They're really strategic decisions. How would you encourage executive leaders to embed those essentials into their organizational culture and strategy? So they're not just one-off programs, but they're really non-negotiable parts of your culture. And can you give us any examples of like a policy or a decision that you implemented that positively impacted one or both of those areas?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. So I guess I'm confused. So HR is not supposed to do everything?
Right? Shocking.
HR gets dumped on. Yeah, this
Yes.
is not HR's job. Leading and building a culture of safety and inclusivity and whatever you want to add to that is not on the shoulders of HR. Are they there to assist you in that? Absolutely. First of all, kudos to you guys, and especially the Hospital Association here in South Carolina, that you guys have implemented strategies like this and talked about it, because it needs to be talked about, right? Especially in healthcare, the things that we do, the things that we see, the mental health piece is such a vital piece. A couple things that I have done here locally is I'm very involved in the community. I do a lot with other organizations in the community. And one thing that I really focus on is on mental health, right? Again, part of my story. I've struggled with a lot of mental health issues growing up, due to my struggles. And listen, today, I have no problem being vulnerable and sitting here on this podcast with you guys, sitting in the seat as a CEO, and tell you, I still struggle with mental health, today at times. I still struggle with imposter syndrome, right? There's times I sit here and I look around and I'm like, how the heck did I get in this seat, right? How am I the CEO of a hospital? So that's all part of mental health. And what I have done here locally, and when I say I don't put that on my leadership team or the HR director. I would bring representatives in here that are part of the mental health associations here in the upstate, and bring them in and educate, right? We let them talk about mental health. We learn about the suicidal hotline. We talk about all those things. We bring a culture of safety. We bring a culture of understanding and acceptance that we are all human. We are all living a life that is difficult, right? And what makes it so much harder for us that are in healthcare, we all got our problems. We all got our health issues. We all got our drama or issues. But then we're also trying to deal with our own, but we're taking care of others as well in their issues and their drama and their health issues. So that's deep. That's deep for a human being to carry, right? And I think we get so caught up as healthcare systems in numbers, outcomes, money, right? We look at things from a business perspective almost at all times, and that's okay. There's definitely a part of that we got to focus on. But if you don't have healthy people, if you don't have people that are healthy physically and mentally, you're not going to succeed. You're going to fail, right? So again, I've had counselors come in here talk about that, having conversations with our staff, right? When we do our department meetings, with myself and HR, we talk about that. We talk about the good things that are happening in the hospital, but hey, how are you? How are you as individuals? How are you handling things? How are you outside of work, right? You have to be careful on how far you go in depth with that. Obviously, that's why HR is there. That's something that's good. But it's okay to ask that question. I've sat in a room and have had employees sit there and cry, and I've gotten emotional, right? And I've shared my story, they share their story. And so again, building that, right? That is a built-in culture thing. It's not a forced thing. It's not okay, let's check the box. It is who we are at the core. One other thing that we just added, my unit council for nursing and my nursing leadership team just came up with an idea on how do we continue to build upon that for mental health. And they presented to me, hey, can we build a Zen location within the hospital for our employees? Absolutely. Well, it's going to cost us a couple $1,000s. Don't care. Go do it. So we actually have a part in the hospital where we have 2 reclining chairs that are massage chairs that have a TV, that have a nice carpet down on the ground, have some nice greenery. We made it this nice Zen location, and we allow our employees that when they're reaching that point, not just on the breaks, but if they're having a moment throughout the day that they feel like, man, I feel like I'm ready to break down, we allow them to have a voice to go to their leader and say, hey, I need a timeout because I'm not going to perform at my highest level if I don't clear my mind. And now we have a specific place that any employee can go to, sit in the chair, dim the lights if they need to, put the massage chair on, put some music on, and just takes a minute to try to zen out, get their mental health back in shape, and get back out there and do the work that they're supposed to be doing and provide the care that we need to give our patients. So again, that's just a couple examples that we do here locally. It's so important not just to talk about it and come off as you're just checking a box. You have to live it. You have to do it. And what's so important is it has to be embedded across your entire leadership team, right? It just can't be the CEO. I have to drive that culture, but I got to make sure my leadership team is bought in on that because it's such a deep thing that people protect. They protect their mental health, and they're afraid to talk about it. That if they have any thought that somebody on the leadership team or anybody in the hospital is not buying in and believing in that, they're not going to open up. They're not going to feel safe to do that. So it is a very intentional thing that we do here locally to make sure that we're incorporating and we're embedding that culture of safety and focusing on mental health collectively. So did that answer all your questions?
Absolutely. Yes. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Josh, what I continue to love about how you're talking about this is, again, you're modeling connection and belonging, true and authentic connection and belonging, which is destigmatizing mental health. And it's helping everyone understand that mental health is just health. We are one being, and all the things that make us up have to do with holistic health. So I really love the way that you're approaching it in normalizing what people experience, what they go through, that it's all just continuum of being human, and we get to connect as humans.
Yeah. And something I've always used an example when I talk to staff, hey, what do you do if you don't want to get the flu, right? Well, no, I don't want to get the flu. So what do you do? Well, I get my flu shot. Okay, that's good. Why do you do that? Well, because that's what helps me maybe not get the flu, or if I do, lessen the severity. And that's just normal to you, right? Well, yeah. So what's the difference between that and mental health? And they all sit there and look, and they have this stump look on their face and say, there's nothing. So that's why we do what we do, and it's okay to talk about it. I
love it. Our listeners are very familiar also with our Work Harmony U initiative, and it really is trying to champion the reigniting of harmony between the work and the people that are doing it. So we've talked a lot about the people element so far this morning, and we know that burnout is not a resilience issue. It's a systems issue. It's all the things that are surrounding the person doing the work. So in your experience as an executive leader, what are some of the maybe top 2 or 3 systems drivers that you feel are contributing to a sense of burnout And how do you in your executive suite have that power to dismantle or mitigate through the decisions and the leadership that you're providing?
Yeah, great question. This is an easy one for me. I think that workload inefficiency is a player towards burnout. I feel like employees having a lack of voice is a big part of burnout. A lot of people don't think that, but it is. And then obviously, I believe that if you don't have clear expectations, your employees walk through the day thinking they know what they're supposed to be doing, but not quite sure knowing what they're doing. And then they start worrying about, am I doing things right? And now you've got this mental burnout of walking on eggshells, right? So, I believe that burnout is a system issue. It's not a personal issue, right? I think we look at burnout as, that person has a flaw, right? They're weak. I think there's some people out there that are like that? I'm sure, right? But I do believe that is a system failure. It's not an individual failure. So where the individual piece comes to it is, I think that sometimes, and it kind of goes back to that core values, right? Aligning core values, personal core values to the core values of the company you work for. I think there's also a lot of people that have been told what to do in their lives, right? So, well, my whole family were nurses. So I'm a nurse. And they come to work as a nurse, and there's nothing about them that makes them a nurse, right? They're just doing what everybody else did. I think that also from an individual status or individual aspect is sometimes people aren't in the right jobs, right? Either for themselves or maybe we have done a bad job of putting somebody in a role that isn't right for them as well. I also think that plays a huge part in leading the burnout. So how have I implemented things here locally? And when I say my team as well, my leadership team, it's not just a me thing, it's an us thing. We have a very strong culture of your voice matters, right? So we have things called a stoplight report here in the hospital. And I'm sure other hospitals have used it as well. So we have boards throughout the hospital to show a red light. So a red light, yellow light, green light. And we have a open dialogue here that when anybody feels like our processes could be improved, if we need equipment that could help alleviate some stress in their day-to-day activities, or just things that they think that we could do better, or they have seen in other places they've worked that they think that could be helping us here. We have a open culture of safety that you can come and talk to us about things that you think that we can improve on. We're not going to punish you for it. We're not going to hold you against those things. We're going to have a culture of safety that you can talk about those things. But what's cool about that is we also then close the loop. We don't just let you have a voice and then you don't know, okay, well, I said the stuff that's going to help me with burnout. Like, are they listening, or is anything going to be fixed? We take that as a team, we bring those to the table at our leadership meeting, and we say, okay, hey, can we do this? What can we do to change this process or this policy? What kind of equipment can we get to help lessen this load for our employees? And then what we do is the things that we can implement, we put on this board. If we've done them, we put on the green light, hey, you've asked for this, it was done. Wow. The yellow light, hey, you asked for this, we're in process. Hey, red light, you asked for this, unfortunately we heard you, but we can't do that. So those are some things that we've implemented here that help with the mental side of of burnout, right? There's physical and there's mental. The mental side of it is hey, you know what? All right, I'm tired, I'm burnt out. I feel like we could change this process. And I said that I wanted to change this process. It's going to help me with my burnout. Hey, you know what? They heard me. So they got this fixed, man. That's awesome. Like now that's helping me. Or, hey, you know what? They said they couldn't do it, but hey, they listened, they looked into it, and they followed up and closed the loop. So am I still going to be burned out a little bit from this one process that I needed something to change? Yes, but it makes me feel a bit better because at least I know that they tried.
Man, you're
100%.
You're really speaking our language over here.
I'm telling you,
this.
I feel like he might need to be a third co-host. You know, what I'm hearing, and especially that last piece of what you shared, Josh, is you all are addressing the moral distress that clinicians often feel, or just healthcare employees in general, where they know the right thing to do, but they feel like their hands are tied in being able to do that consistently. And so that moral distress gets into moral injury and certainly propels burnout forward. And so what I hear you saying is listening, leading with empathy and vulnerability, and communication at that top level, by multi-directionally throughout the organization, is really helping to align the work and the people who are dedicated to performing it. I just absolutely love that example.
Thank you. And if I could add one more to your list there, we got to give people grace.
Absolutely.
100. Yes.
And again, when we built this hospital, that was actually, that one word is the one thing that I brought up with every single interview I had with my executive leadership team, because I wanted to see if I said grace, because people look at it just from a religious standpoint. There's other sides to the word grace, right? And if I had anybody I was interviewing kind of like close up when I said that, I wasn't hiring them.
Yeah.
Because we have to give each other grace. We have to give each other empathy. And when you give people grace in those things that we've just talked about, it just leads to success. It leads to a culture that people truly believe in what you're saying, and that they're going to work hard for you because of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we often talk about the challenges right now with recruitment and retention in healthcare, with the aging population. The boomers are retiring, and at the same time they're aging and they need more healthcare. And so, there's a higher demand for healthcare. What are the transformative leadership behaviors that you believe have the most significant impact on attracting and keeping talent?
Yeah, I'm smiling because this is my favorite thing about what I do. This is my favorite thing about leadership. There are most leaders, most organizations look at success and how they're going to get to success by coming up with a process, coming up with budgets, coming up with goals, and achieving them. And they lead through that. Again, this is my opinion. So there's maybe some listeners are going to think I'm full of it and they don't agree with it, and that's okay. This is my story. This is my vision on leadership. I think that's the last thing you should focus on. I lead, my team leads through people first. It becomes people first, building a strong culture, a healthy culture, making sure you do not allow silos, right? I always do this thing with all my employees when they come in on orientation, and I kind of break up the mood, right? Because they're listening to me. I'm talking about core values. I'm talking about the cool things we're going to do. And I say, all right, let's take a time off from healthcare. Hey, who here were you a farmer in the past? And people are like, this guy's lost his mind. And I sit there and talk to them and say, what's a silo on a farm? And they will normally tell you, it's that long tube, right? Right. Now, well, what's in that long tube? Well, they usually hold the grain. And I say, okay, do they mix multiple grain? And they're like, no. And there's usually multiple silos. One holds wheat, one holds corn. And I say, does that make a farm successful? Absolutely. I said, okay, let's come back to business. When we talk about silos in the business, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And sometimes people get confused, and I sit there and say it's a bad thing. Because what does that mean? That means, have any of you ever heard, that's not my job? Have you ever heard a therapist say to a nurse, hey, you know what? I do therapy. I don't do nursing. That's not my job, or vice versa, right? And I sit there and say, how does that make you feel? Well, I feel unseen. I feel like they're better than me. And I say, so if you feel that way, do you enjoy coming to work? Well, no. So when I come to them in the forefront and talk about culture and talk about not allowing silos to happen in the hospital or any business, letting that be understood and teaching that, right? Educating that, because a lot of people don't know that, but setting that up from day one, literally the first hour of their employment, they're hearing this message from me. that allows them to buy in and help me build the culture, help us build the culture in this hospital, to be successful. And when you do that, you have happy employees. And when you have happy employees that feel cared for and feel loved and feel supported and feel seen and feel heard, those people now produce by giving good care, by having a positive outlook, by having a positive interaction with all of our employees, with all of our patients, with all of our families, with all of our visitors, all of our vendors, because it's not just about the patient, it's about all those that walk through our front doors. So when you do that, people want to work here. People want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
People then, guess what? Give good care, give high quality of care. And then that now leads to positive outcomes. And that now leads to employees staying. That now leads to patients going home and not to a nursing home or not progressing. That leads to those patients going out in the community and saying, man, this place called Encompass Health Greenville is like no other healthcare I've ever been a part of. If you ever need rehab services, I was there. I'm telling you, you need to go there. So now we have patients, and this happens, literally walking through the front door. Hey, I heard I have to come here. I got to get surgery in a month. Can I pre-sign up? We have it happen all the time.
That's
Legit.
amazing.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? You're reaching your goals. Now you're bringing in the financials. Now you're bringing in the stability. So I think that we have had in business the model flipped, right? We need to flip it the other way. People first, culture first. That is going to lead to success. So there might be people here listening on this podcast. Man, this guy likes to talk a good game. Sounds great, but you can say that, but doing it's a different story. I'm extremely proud to say that we are going on 5 years of existence in our hospital. I have not spent one penny on agency usage in this hospital.
Wow.
Not one penny. In our therapy department in 5 years, 0% turnover in 5 years.
Wow.
We have some turnover in our nursing, but our goal is set at about 25% turnover, what the company wants us to have, or less in nursing. We don't even come close to that. We have turnover, but we don't have anything close to that. And where does our turnover come from in nursing? Well, we've had a lot of people that we have promoted. We have a lot of people, we're blessed. We work for an organization like Encompass Health that is national. We have 170 hospitals throughout the United States, including Puerto Rico. We build 5 to 10 new hospitals per year. So we are healthy and we're growing consistently. What does that do? That provides opportunity, right? So we do lose some nursing to leadership roles in other hospitals. Sure. The other piece is guess what? If you're not jumping on board with our core values, if you're not jumping on board with what we are talking about here today on this podcast, you're going to find yourself not working here, because a lot of organizations, a lot of cultures can be killed, A, from silos, but B, by saying the things that I'm saying right now, but then you're allowing somebody that's toxic to stay in those roles.
Right. Amen.
Kills that culture. So yes, I want everybody to succeed. But if you're not aligning with my culture and you're going to hurt us as a hospital, you're going to walk out these front doors. Mm-hmm. But again, what I do to continue to show that I care about that person, even and through their disdain towards us or not meeting what we need them to do, I want the best for them. And I make sure they know that. And I sit there and say, you know what, even though you're not aligned with who we are and our vision here for this hospital, I still wish the best for you. And I want you to find what's best for you to make you happy. Unfortunately, this isn't the place for you.
Yeah. That's really powerful.
It is. Yeah. That's really hard to do, but it's so, so important for sure. Because you're right. That'll kill your culture.
Emily, if I can add to that, Emily, real quick. And I think that where a lot of CEOs fail, and not just CEOs, leaders, is it's hard. I'm blessed because with my book and my background, I get to go and do public speaking, and I go do keynote speaking. And, a lot of the times I sit there to say to people in the audience, hey, you know what? Most people buy books. A lot of people come to these seminars because they want to figure out what's the secret sauce to leadership. And guess what? There's no secret sauce. Right? There's nothing you're going to read. There's nothing you're going to hear from somebody that's going to make you successful just because of that. But I do sit there and say, but I do have one thing that I want to share with everybody, that when you're a leader that can make you successful, it's not about you. And nobody likes to hear that, right? Especially some of us people in leadership, we've worked so hard to get where we're at, and we're part of being, I am a leader, I'm at the top, I'm an executive, and you should feel proud of that. You worked hard for getting there, but that doesn't make you a god, right? That doesn't make you invincible, right? It doesn't make you anything more than the person cleaning the floors in your hospital or in your organization. So you got to understand that it's not about me. And if you're going to lead, you're going to lead through servant leadership. And you don't just say that, hey, the hip word is servant. I'm a servant leader. Come work for me. No, you got to do it. And when you lead through servant leadership, it's not about you. It is about the people that you serve. They don't serve you. And that is hard. And a lot of leaders like to try to get a quick fix, and then they can sit back and relax. It's an everyday, every moment thing that you got to do. You have to be intentional in everything that you do, every single second of the day. And guess what? I'm a transparent person. That's hard. And sometimes it just simply sucks, right? But if you want to be a good leader and be successful, and you truly care about your people, and ultimately you want to be successful as an individual and move up in your career, your hospital or your organization, you have to do it, right? There's no other way. Because if you let there be a gap in what you're doing, that gap will kill your culture. What stinks, I tell everybody, and I tell my leaders, it takes a long time to build a safe culture and a successful culture. But buddy, that culture can be broken down in a matter of seconds.
Absolutely.
So if you're not intentional.
You're so right.
Yeah. And you touched on this a little bit already, but how do you also ensure that your leadership team models those same behaviors that you described? I know you talked a little bit about, making sure in the beginning that their values are aligned with yours, but what other things do you do to kind of make sure that that's trickling down? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, at the front, this is where my HR director and I always laugh, and I always say she hates me. She doesn't. I hate HR questions when you're interviewing somebody. So tell me about a time, and it's like, okay, is there value behind that? There is. So HR people listening, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say that it's not good, but I go against the grain sometimes, and my HR yells at me, but I do it anyways. And where I'm going with this is, when I interviewed my executive leaderships, and the front part is, I actually asked them, what are your personal core values? If you can't answer that right away, that's a problem, right? If you really got to sit there and dig deep and try to figure that out, that's a problem. If you're able to come at me right away, here's my core values, here's how I live, that's great. I also ask about their lives, right? Tell me about your life. Tell me about your family. Tell me about what you like to do. See where they get excited. See what matters to them most at a personal level. Because at a personal level, if you can figure out who they are, that's really where you find people that are going to align with what your vision is for the organization, right? And how you want to lead. I always say that you can train somebody from a skill level, but you can't always train someone to be a good human being. You're either a good human being or you're not, right? So I ask those questions to truly find who the person is at the core. So then the next part is how do I continue to lead through that, right? Well, I get to be an example. If I'm not the example and I'm not leading through example, then why are they going to do what they're what I want them to do? How are they going to continue that? So it then again falls back on me leading them and showing them by example. The other thing is letting them know that the things that I preach to them and we preach to our employees, it also goes for them as well, right? I need them to know that they have a safe place to come, that I love them as a human being, that I see them as a human being, that I see that they have their own struggles. I see that letting them have a place where they can break down and be human, right? Leadership is hard. It is freaking hard, right? And letting them have a place to come talk to me and be like, man, this job sucks, right? Or this is just hard, and talking through that with them. But then on the back end, when they feel good and they can get back out there, I always say, and remember this conversation. Remember how you felt coming in here. Remember how I responded to you. Remember that we work through this together. when your employees come to you and you're having a bad day and you just don't want to take that time to say, okay, I'm moving my paperwork to the side so I can focus on my employee and give them what I just gave you.
Right.
Remember that. And I say that is an expectation, right? I set very clear-cut expectations, not just for everybody in this hospital and for myself, but for my leaders. I do expect that you do this. I do expect that this is who you are at the core. And listen, here's a safe place for you. If you ever lose that drive, if you ever lose that love to where you can do that just naturally, I need you to come tell me. And if I can work through that with you, okay. And maybe it's just it's no longer your time to be in this position. And I will support you through that. And I'll help you find that next role for you. So again, intentionality, right? So I gave you a long story, but really it comes back down to intentionality. But also letting it know that it is an expectation. It is part of your job. If you're going to be a leader in this hospital, you're going to be a leader for me. It is an expectation that you do these things. And if you're not, then we'll have to talk about that.
That's fantastic. So, Josh, I want to take us back to a little bit of our previous conversation. So we've talked quite a bit about creating a safe environment, creating that psychologically safe culture. We know that's a piece of the protection from harm essential element. And so when you're making high stakes organization-wide decisions, you give a great example of the stoplight approach for elevating worker voice. But do you have a system in place that you could share for making sure that all voices are heard, even the dissenting ones, either maybe prior to the decision making or feedback once something has been put in place?
Yeah, absolutely. That's multi-level, right? So we are intentional about speaking to our employees. So here's a quick an example. So we have a piece of paper that we give all our employees on day one of orientation, and it's about me. It's an about me page. So what's your favorite hobby? What's your favorite candy? What's your favorite movie? If we were to give you a gift, what do you like? Do you like t-shirts? Do you like clothing? Do you like food? Do you like money? But one of the other things that we add on there at the very end is, how do you like to be communicated with? Right? So we have been intentional on setting up multiple layers and avenues of communication. Right? So I believe that it's not a one size fits all. Right? And I think that when you try to do the one size fit all, that has a massive impact on the whole psychological safety aspect, right? Because if an employee has something that's on their mind, on their chest, that they want to talk about, but all we have is one form of communication, is sitting at the CEO town hall when everybody's there. The only time you can ask me questions is at that time. Well, if they're not an outgoing person and they're embarrassed or they're even afraid of asking that question, are they going to do it? Heck no, right? So now they don't feel seen, they don't feel safe, they don't feel heard. That starts to make a negative impact on their psyche, and then again they just start to fall apart, and their outcomes are terrible, and their work that they do day in and day out isn't going to be at the highest level. So we take that feedback that we get from our employees, and we make sure that we have multiple venues, right, that we lay out there. So individual communication, departmental communication, hospital-wide communication, face-to-face communication, email, text communication. So we literally have all of that. And again, we talk about that. So we talk about that at the individual level, we talk about that at the department level, we talk about that at the hospital-wide level. And we make sure that we allow each employee to have a true understanding that whatever works for them, right, not me, what works for them is what we're going to accept in a form of communication. And that allows for them to feel seen and heard and feel safe, right? What I add to that is I have to make sure that my employees feel safe in having those communications. And how do we do that? Well, that's via our executive leadership and our middle management on how do they respond to that feedback, right? Our leaders have to react to feedback appropriately. This is, again, something I say to them, and I use the word expectation. If you personally don't like what's being said, I personally don't care, right? As a leader in that moment, it's not about you. You put your personal feelings aside and you respond positively and you listen. You shut up. You don't talk. You listen, you take, right? Once you take, then you provide feedback and you close the loop from that communication. And we do a whole lot of, so I hear you saying,
right.
All right. Because again, you can tell leaders to do that. And they're like, all right, Josh, well, I'm going to just sit there and listen. Yeah. And then you say, okay, thanks. And the employee sits there and goes, they just said, okay, thanks. And they didn't listen to a word that I said. Or maybe the leader did listen, but you didn't give that feedback. So now they're unfairly passing judgment on you that you just said, and you didn't listen. So it is an requirement that you give feedback at the end. Thank you for sharing. What I hear you saying is ABC. I'm going to take this back to the leadership team and we're going to see what we can do with that, right? Again, that leads to, I feel heard, I feel safe, I feel like I have leaders I can go to, and I know that they're going to follow up on that and they're going to come back and follow up with me on what they did with it. So those are just some channels that we've created here locally that make sure that every hearse can feel, every voice can be heard.
Yeah. And what I want to point out from what you described, Joshua, is there was no defensiveness in that, right? Like when you're a leader who's receiving feedback and you're becoming defensive, it's almost counter to what you're saying, because if you're defensive, then you are making it about you, right? You feel like there's some kind of personal attack or some kind of diminishment of your ability to lead. But when you're curious about, tell me more about what you're talking about. What are your thoughts on how to make it better? What I'm hearing you say is that's the kind of the opposite end of, you don't have to get defensive. You just need to be curious and find out a little bit more about what they're talking about.
Yeah. And if I can add to that, you know what I do? And I know people hate it. And again, it is what it is. I tell everybody, if you get offended, if you get defensive when somebody's saying something, then you're doing something wrong. Because if someone's telling me something, or they have a perception of me that they're sharing that I know is just not correct, I'm not going to be offended. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry you feel that way. Here's the truth. Here's the truth behind what you're saying. I can see why you think that, but really here's where I'm coming from. Thank you for sharing that, though. Maybe I can just take a look at maybe how I talk differently about that to make sure you don't have that perception. But if I'm like, what a jerk, I can't believe, I'm guessing there's probably some truth to the stuff that's being thrown at you by that employee. So maybe you need to look inside and say, maybe I got a problem, not that employee. Right. So I talk about that all the time. When I see somebody being offended by what's being said, to me, that tells me a lot, that there's probably some truth behind that story. If you sit there and say, hey, thanks for telling me that, I appreciate that, but that's not at all my intention, then I know if you're comfortable in your skin to say that, then it's not true.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Before I dive into the next question, I just wanted to check with you on time. Are you okay to go over a little bit, or do you have a hard stop? Okay.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. We just got a couple more questions, so we'll be wrapping it up here soon.
Sure. Can I add to that last question real quick?
Of course.
Again, a lot of the listeners are probably, again, saying, all right, well, Josh, that sounds great. That sounds good coming out of your mouth and maybe on paper, but, is it possible to do these things? Something else that I'm proud of, everything that I say, everything that my leadership team says, everything that we say here from a hospital perspective, we make sure we can back up, right? And one thing that I'm really proud of is the things that I'm saying and the things that we're doing with our employees. We've been awarded several times now in a very short period of time of existence of having some of the highest employee engagement surveys in the company. So we are well over 93% in employee favorability consistently year over year, which is very, very
That's big.
Questions such as my leadership team cares about me, my CEO cares about me. We are always 97% and above favorability from our employees. So what does that tell you? You can, it works, right?
Yeah.
You can do it, but I need you, all you listening to this podcast that want to implement this, you can do it. Anybody can do this, but know that it's very hard and you have to be intentional and you have to do it.
Mm-hmm. You're making this so easy on us, because that was the next question that I was going to ask you is, we used to have a partner that would say, you measure what you treasure and you treasure what you measure. Mm-hmm. So are there any other key metrics that you look at to kind of gauge the health of your culture? Whether it's engagement, you mentioned turnover, is there anything else?
Yeah. Personally, my favorite metric to measure is interacting with my employees and seeing smiles on their face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen how many people in our lifetime, I'm sure you have, that have a scowl on their face. They're miserable. They don't interact with people. They're walking with their shoulders down. They're walking with their head down, going from one task to the other. That screams. And if people don't think that doesn't scream loud, it does, right? I'm so proud that our employees are constantly smiling, constantly laughing, constantly giggling, constantly getting along well, keeping their head up, not being told to interact with people, not being told to look at a stranger that's coming into our hospital for the first time that doesn't know where they're at, and stopping what they're doing and say, hey, man, welcome to Encompass. You seem like you're a little lost. Can I help you? Oh, yeah, come on, let me take you, right? To me, that's your biggest metric, right? Yeah. If they're not doing that, something's broke. Something's not right. Now, actual, things that you can look at, yes, retention, engagement, patient experience. Again, something I'm proud of. Our goals internally with our company is 73% in patient engagement, right? So when our surveys come back, we want to be at 73% or above. This hospital consistently is at 92% and above with our patient experience.
Wow.
When you go on Google, I ask you or anybody listening, if you think that I'm just kind of blowing smoke, I ask you to go on Google and Google this hospital. Why do people go on Google to do reviews? It's normally not for good, right? It's not for bad.
Very true.
Do we have a couple on there that want to say bad things about us? Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, anything that's negative that's presented to you, there's always 50-50. 50% of it is just you're not going to make everybody happy, and people have their own perceptions of what they should be receiving. But there's always 50% of it. There's some truth behind it. You probably didn't do great somewhere, right? So I will own some of the things that might be on there that are negative, but I can tell you they are very few. But go on there and see, we have vendors that have nothing to do with us other than bringing in products that we need to use, that have taken the time to go on there and put things that they have never seen and felt welcome like they have in this hospital. Families, patients, that's just amazing, right? So patient experience is huge. Employee experience is huge. Retention is huge. We have a very big PRN pool. A lot of people might look at that as like, well, Joshua, why is that a success? You have to have PRN pool. You do. But do you have people that are knocking on the door wanting to be a PRN because they're waiting for that one opening to come to move into full time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have zero retention issues. We have $0 spent on agency because when we have someone leave, we have 5 people waiting in the pipeline.
Yeah, it's a great pipeline.
Great, pipeline, right? Our quality matrix, our safety matrix. That safety or the staff stability that I'm talking about. All those things are what's important to me and what I keep a close eye on. And I make sure my leadership team does that as well. We're very competitive because of that, right? Mm-hmm. We're a very competitive hospital. We're so proud that this year at our CEO National Conference, we walked away with 5 awards. The highest out of, I think, pretty much everybody in the company this year. We have met President Circle back-to-back years, which in our first 4 years, getting it twice is almost unheard of. That's not bragging. That's showing us and showing others what we're saying is working, right?
Right.
So while we don't want to make awards our driving force, is that something that confirms what you're doing is working? Absolutely.
Right.
My CNO and my director of therapy just got back from their their national conference up in Chicago. They walked away with 5 awards there, both individually and for the hospital. So it makes me happy to see the work that we're putting in collectively is working, right? And last month, our patient experience dipped. It went down to 73%. And what makes me so happy through that, and people are like, well, you dropped, you're happy? I am happy because this hospital was on fire. Our leadership team was not happy. Our middle management was not happy. Our employees that really normally don't care go, what the heck? We're always at 90 above. Why is it, right?
Yeah.
So we share those things. When we have negative outcomes and positive outcomes, we share that with our employees. We put it out on email. We talk about it in our meetings. We say what our patients are saying. And our employees take that to heart. They do not like it, right? And what's so cool is the management doesn't have to go to our employees. The employees sit there and say, oh, time out. This ain't happening again. And they pick their game up. And today, as of today, we're sitting at 94%. We're back up to where it's at. So those are some things that we look at, the return on investment. It's not just about money, but it's about an investment of time and effort that we put in, our employees put in, and it's working.
Fantastic. It really is a great example of how looking at values, like the value on investment, ends up becoming return on investment. That everything is connected. It's not people or operations. It's not staff or patients. It's everything all at once.
Yep, absolutely.
So Josh, I'm having a hard time finding the words to even express how thoroughly excited we are and how much we have enjoyed having this conversation with you today. Your story, your insights, your truth, and your vulnerability. Are there any final thoughts maybe that we haven't touched on that you'd like to leave our listeners with about the future of healthcare leadership? Any resources you know of? Maybe your book, perhaps? You'd like to tell people how to get that? I know Emily and I are certainly going to run out and do that. So how can people connect with you, find your work, and get your book?
Yeah. So, leadership, I feel like the future of leadership is, it depends on doing things for the right reasons, right? Are you in the seat for the right reasons? There's a lot of people that work so hard to get to being a leader because it's a goal of theirs, and that's a great goal, and that's a good thing. But then they forget what they went through. They forget what they did and what they had to endure through that journey to get where they're at. Let that journey not be something that you forget, but let that be at the forefront. Let your personal journey, both professionally and personally, and your personal core values be what leads you in all that you do. Okay? Because if you don't do that, you're just not going to succeed to the extent that you want to succeed. Will you have success? Absolutely, you'll have success. But are you going to go to that level where you're transforming yourself and transforming others? You're not, right? Remember that people matter. Remember that culture matters, right? Let that be at the forefront from a business plan perspective. We know that money matters. We know that outcomes matter. But those things should not come first. That should come second, really actually last. Because if you build a strong culture and you lead appropriately and you lead and you love on your people, that's going to lead to success, not only for your hospital, right? I think that as leaders, we sit in these seats because we have a drive behind us, right? We are people that are hungry. We are people that want success. We are people that want to continue to build upon what we've already done. That is a good thing. But understand that while you're the one that is definitely being a part of that, you are not the reason for it. It's other people that have impacts on your life. Again, both personally and professionally. It is the failures that you've been through. It is the people that you lead that are doing the heavy duty lifting that will lead to you being successful. So understand that if you really are more of a me person, try to not let that be what leads you. And I promise you, what's great about it is with all that success that comes by leading through being a transformative leader, at the very end, you are going to be successful. You are going to win those awards. You are going to get those bonuses. You are going to get those promotions. It's going to happen. And that's a good thing, but that is not what you should be leading through. If you're on the golf course every Friday playing golf, instead of being in your organization leading, you're not leading correctly. It is a Monday through Friday, definitely during the work week, but it's also on the weekends. If you're a leader, you are signing a contract that is not about you, and it's about those people and that organization that you're leading, and you have to be available at all times. Yes, you got to have work-life balance. I'm not saying live in it, right? But it's not just a Monday through Friday daylight thing, right? So find your core values. I recommend, if you don't know what your core values are, or if you think you do, you shouldn't think that you know what they are. You should know. You should be able to rattle them off right off the get-go. Not just your company's core values, but your core values as well. And lead through those. Lead through vulnerability. Tell your story. Let people know what your journey was. Because again, we all have the same story. It just looks a little different than when you open up and you lead your leaders through your story and letting them kind of grab onto your story and say, hey, we connect here. Hey, my story is the same as yours here. That's where people start to believe in you, and they will run through brick walls for you. So that's just some recommendations I have for other people to lead. As for my book, if you want to know more of my story, if you want to have a little more information about my leadership approach, Transformative Leadership is available on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, all other major platforms. If you can't find it, if you Google it, it's going to bring up all the places you can get it. I would greatly appreciate your support. If you have any questions through that, I'm always available. I'm heavy on LinkedIn. So if you're a LinkedIn person, I do a lot on LinkedIn. I'll do a lot of posts about some things that I'm experiencing, some stories about what I'm seeing, some recommendations. And then you could also visit my Instagram, and then also have a website, joshuaptrout.com, that has some things on there from podcasts I've been on, some speaking gigs, a little bit about the book, a little bit about my vision of leadership. And you can always go to the info button, reach out to me. I'm always available. Part of my story is being available to others. So even though you don't work for me, or you don't maybe have a personal relationship with me, I want to see everybody be successful, and I want to see everybody transform those that they lead. So don't ever be afraid to reach out to me. I'm always an ear, and would love to share my thoughts and experiences with you.
Outstanding. Well, we will also put the details of what you've described on how to get in touch with you in the episode notes, so everybody can have that easily accessible. Thank you again so very much for telling us why, for sharing your valuable executive level insights today. Just real quickly, the key takeaways that I heard that are vital contributors to culture: transformative leadership through listening, vulnerability, authenticity, and genuine connection is a strategic plan.
Correct.
Psychological safety and giving people grace are non-negotiable.
Amen.
And the ultimate work harmony you goal requires alignment from the C-suite all the way to the bedside. I think I can speak for Emily in saying that this has been a really powerful and actionable conversation. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you even more for what you do for your people and your willingness to share it with others.
Well, thank you both. This has been an awesome time with both you, and that goes back to you. Thank you both for what you do. This is a great platform for leaders to talk, and hopefully this message continues to grow, and we start seeing some awesome leadership out there, and see a lot of people succeed. So I appreciate both.
Definitely. Thank you. To our audience, thank you for listening. To learn more about our Why initiative, which focuses on a fulfilling workplace experience, you can visit scy.org. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review, share the podcast with your friends and colleagues, and follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thank you all so much for listening.